fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my God!
Oh.
Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get full!
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
It's trucking time here on SimSpeed TV, round 5 of the Pro Truck Showdown Season 4 from Okayama International Circuit. This is another one of those tracks that has brought some quite interesting racing in this magnificent series in terms of action. I mean, I am really looking forward to the racing tonight. We got 14 drivers out there, and we're looking to have some lovely close racing and some big dives into the hairpins here at the tight and twisty Okayama track. My name's Reese Gardner. Joining me in the commentary box as usual, Cameron Dance. Well, Cam, we head to Japan after racing in Brazil last round. You took a week's break from broadcasting the Pro Truck Showdown, but good place to return.
Yeah, absolutely. The last time we came here, it was absolutely fantastic, and the racing the entire night way through was really, really close and really, really exciting. So can't wait to see what tonight's going to hold. We've obviously seen the likes of Brenton Hobson and that do a lot of dominating in the past, so we'll have to see who's going to be able to top him tonight, and whether the likes of Mitchell McLeod or possibly even Daniel Stevens and that are going to be able to give him a little bit of a run for his money.
Indeed, there is the Okayama International Circuit, first built in the early 1990s, hosted 2 Formula One Grand Prix in 1994 and 1995. The only change to the circuit in that time has been the widening of Turn 3. The Moss S is a little bit wider than it used to be, and thank goodness for that, because it certainly means that there's a bit more of an opportunity for drivers to get alongside for the run up to Turn 4 at Atwood Curve, but Turn 5, the hairpin, and then Redman and Hobbs towards the end of the lap are 2 of the biggest passing zones on the lap. Perfect for sending one up the inside.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's pretty much a number of other corners as well. Nearly every corner you can seem to move up the inside or try and go around the outside so you have the inside for the next corner. So it just lends itself to producing really, really good race in the track, with the fact that it's got some really nice flow and some really, really good heads up. Well, the way it's been designed, it just requires you to be very, very heads up in the driving department. So it really is going to be very, very fascinating to see what happens tonight, and very much looking forward to it.
Indeed, we're in qualifying at the moment. 6 minutes. Every driver gets 1 lap to set their time for the Race 1 grid, when Race 1 will be 5 laps in length as per usual. Brenton Hobson coming up to the end of his qualifying lap, and Jaden Russell making an appearance as well for Synergy Sim Racing. That's the first time we've seen 2 Synergy cars on the grid in a while. What will Russell be able to do here coming across the line? 1 minute 46.906 for the number 28. That is Provisional Poll. Brenton Hobson coming across the line now to set a 1 minute 44.425. That's quite the incredible time for Brenton Hobson. Runner-up in the championship last season, Mitchell McLeod, unable to really pressure, and seems that he invalidated that particular lap. A 45.2 for Ryan Jones. That puts himself P2 on the provisional front row. Excellent performance there. But Gregory Favell, Daniel Stevens, Brian Trezise, and Damien Westbrook also putting in very good times, putting themselves up towards the top.
Yeah, certainly, and it's very, very close between Pavel and Stevens as well. Not a lot separating those two, not a lot separating Justin Howe and Brenton Hobson after Howe completing that lap and putting himself on the front row. It's very, very close between those two at the top of the timesheets, and it's very, very close throughout the field as well. So it's certainly going to be all on throughout this field.
Indeed, it looks like Brady Baldwin there just invalidating his hot lap going off the circuit. Of course, you only do get 1 opportunity to set a time here, and if you dip a wheel off the track into the grass, you'll get an incident point, and that will invalidate your lap time. So Brady's just going to be completing this lap here just as a bit of a sighter at the moment. Both he and Mitchell McLeod, the two drivers in this session to ultimately not set a time, but Brady Baldwin for SM Sim Sport, the team that he runs. Brady usually active in the dirt racing scene. You can catch him racing in the Oceanic Dirt Sim Events 360 Power Series on Thursday nights and crossing the line in style, coming to a stop at the pit exit. And he's already on the blower in the text chat saying, end of line penalty, car 88. Well, that would certainly make things interesting. Brenton Hobson having to fight his way through the back, but he starts at the front for the first race of the night alongside Justin Howe. Ryan Jones and Gregory Favell are going to share row 2. Daniel Stevens and Brian Trezise on the third row. Damien Westbrook is going to start 7th. Jaden Russell in 8th. Philip Howe and Max Lumsden rounding out the top 10. And then the three drivers rounding out, the ones who set times, Ricardo Morganti, Aaron Dillon, and debutant Robert Corey. Mitch McLeod and Brady Baldwin taking up the final 2 spots on the grid. Look for them to be fighting their way through.
Yeah, certainly, especially Mitch McLeod, who we've seen has had very, very good pace in the past and has been a former champion as well in this series. So he'll be one to watch and will certainly make his way through the field in reasonably quick fashion. But who knows what's going to happen? We'll have to wait and see. And also the likes of Aaron Dillon and a few others possibly going to be able to make their way up the order a little bit as well.
Yes, indeed. There's an awful lot to look out for here in this event, in this series as well. Quite the action-packed championship is the Pro Truck Showdown, presented by Scumander Coffee Mug and Hot Toddy's Heating Installs. We've got 55 seconds left on the gridding time, and we have yet to have our pole man join the grid. Once he does join, we will get, there we go, the clock should likely go to 0 very shortly. We'll be able to get a start on our hands. Looks like all drivers making their way onto the grid. The lights go up, the revs rise. V8 power, rear-wheel drive off-road racing trucks on road courses. And away we go. It's a pretty good start there from Brenton Hobson. Ryan Jones immediately moving to cover the inside from Gregory Favell. But Favell trying to pressure him around the outside. He'll get the inside line for turn 2 as they are 2 by 2 behind. Stevens just getting ahead of Brian Trezise as it's side by side between Westbrook and Russell. Daniel Stevens pressuring these two as Russell goes off the track. He manages to recover though. Ricardo Morganti filtering towards the back as Jones pressuring Favell into turn 4. Slight bit of contact gives him a big old bump at the apex and has to back out of it, but it is on for the lead. Have a look at Justin Howe just behind Brenton Hobson there at the front of the field. The draft comes into play down the back straight. Stevens is going to try here on Jones. Howe trying on Hobson. Up the inside he goes. Let's see if he can hold on to that. Hobbo has to just try and feed the throttle around the outside and defend that move as we see Gregory Favell leaving Daniel Stevens and Ryan Jones in the dust.
Yeah, Ryan Jones and Daniel Stevens fighting very, very hard at the moment, nearly making contact between the two of them, and Howe nearly had a look on the way into the back end of the circuit as well, but Stevens up the inside of Jones again. A little bit of elbows out and up and over goes Jaden Russell in the background too.
Goodness me, that was contact at the hairpin with Damien Westbrook. Westbrook just getting into the side of Russell and Russell on his side, so he's going to have to retire from this first race. Not how he wanted his night to go off. Let's check out a virtual racing school replay. Mitch McLeod up to 11th, Brady Baldwin up to 10th at the end of the first lap. So here comes Westbrook on the inside, and there, I'm not too sure about that. Looked like the door wasn't really open.
Yeah, almost a little bit of a forced move there by Westbrook by the looks of it. Didn't really have much to do there, although that said, everybody was checking up in front of him, so didn't really have much of a choice there, I don't think.
No, certainly didn't. The racing continues, though. I was just reacting to Stevens and Jones continuing to go side by side, and Damien Westbrook is also feeding some quarter panels to Brian Trezise at the first turn, and then a little bit at turn 4 as well. And Stevens Stevens and Jones, they seem to have been side by side for pretty much a whole lap now. It's quite the tough ask here to try and gain an advantage around Okayama. It seems the driver can defend all the way around the lap here. Trezise, though, oh no, just shifts out Jones and Stevens to the edge of the track, and both of them compromised. Westbrook is then through, but hits Brian Trezise. Goodness me, off the racetrack he goes, and Westbrook, staying on the tarmac, manages to filter through. Jones then back ahead of Trezise, but Stevens has been shuffled back massively, and Mitchell McLeod and Brady Baldwin getting massively involved here. Aaron Dillon getting into the back of Ryan Jones, sends him wide in the hairpin. They are 3 wide for the briefest of moments, but Mitchell McLeod filtering through.
Yeah, very, very nice moves there by Mitchell McLeod to move past all these guys and be on the tail of Damien Westbrook now to try and make up another position and try and get himself up towards podium positions. He's not far off getting inside that top 3 as well with how far away they are, but he's certainly made no hesitation in moving through the field.
Certainly to the end of lap 2 of 5. Jones up the inside of Aaron Dillon, Stevens up the inside of Baldwin, 2 by 2 again into the first turn. Dillon gets on the throttle a little bit harder and maintains the position versus Ryan Jones. He's going to have to try a bit of a cutback here, or he can hold it round the outside, get the power down, and get up the inside at turn 4. That seems to be the move that Ryan Jones is going for. He's going to have to be careful of the drivers behind. Stevens very late on the brakes, just avoids getting into him, but a little bit of a turn there. They all come together into Aaron Dillon. He is shuffled then to the back of the pack. This is some crazy racing in the mid-pack of this race. We see Max Lumsden as well trying to get involved in this with Brady Baldwin a little bit faster down the straight. Stevens now carrying some damage. He tries to have a look up the inside of Brian Trezise, but nothing doing there as Aaron Dillon is having a very tough time there in the hairpin.
He's having a very, very tough time trying to battle with everybody that's going on around him and trying to not lose any more places with what's been going on in the last lap or so. The 2% SimSport cars fighting very, very hard, but it's on at the front of the field though between Hobson and Howe, who have been going at it for the past half a lap or so, and Howie trying to find his way on by to move past Brenton Hobson, and Mitchell McLeod also making that move done on Westbrook to move into P4 as well.
Yeah, Mitchell McLeod steadily advancing his way through the field. It's been a great run from Mitch so far, taking advantage of the battles that others have been putting themselves in. Have to give a shout out to Gregory Favell too, who's running just behind this pair that we're watching at the moment. He's managed to keep himself in that 3rd place, and though he is getting a little squirrely on exit, there's enough of a gap there back to Mitchell McLeod that I doubt the gap will be made up on pace alone, unless of course Favell makes a mistake. Just going into the pits there is Robert Corey, and he's pulled that into the lane, and I think that might be a retirement for him as Howe up the inside of Hobson, coming up through turn 4. Once again, it's super close between these two, but he has to settle for the draft, and Brenton Hobson knows how to wheel one of these trucks around. Justin Howe, of course, the organizer of this series. Hobson doing very well to hold around the outside of the hairpin once again, and there's a bit of camber in that hairpin that allows you to maintain the pace. And yeah, like you just saw there, if you have the inside for the next corner, you've pretty much got the position handed to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's very much thinking ahead of himself there by holding that outside line, which seems to be working very well for him to get the inside for the following corner. But back further behind, Aaron Dillon, Brian Trezise and Daniel Stevens certainly still going at it at the moment. The likes of Brady Baldwin and Lumsden have dropped off a little bit, but still in contention here should anything happen between these 3.
Yes, indeed. Brady just keeping himself there behind the battling trio, Stevens, Trezise and Dillon. Stevens, though, holding on, and Brian Trezise using quite a bit of curb in the last corner to try and gain some advantage. Doesn't seem to have worked too well there, because Daniel Stevens has put down the power magnificently and is starting to jet away from these guys. Meanwhile, you see just up ahead, Ryan Jones catching up to Damien Westbrook, who's had a little bit of a whoopsie moment in turn 1, which gives the advantage to Jones. Robert Corey's made his way back out onto the circuit. I think he might have had to pit for some fuel. Mitchell McLeod just making his way past him. So remains to be seen if Corey's going to make life difficult here for Westbrook and Jones.
Yes, he's going to make life difficult for him, as it's nearly a mistake by Westbrook and not quite getting the traction down, as you can see there by the little bit of it. Licorice sticks being laid down by Westbrook on the exit of it, turn 4, and that's going to allow Ryan Jones to close up to Westbrook now as they head down at the back straight down towards the turn 5 hairpin. Is Jones going to break a little bit later? Looks like he is, but he's just not quite going to be able to get a move done from that far back, so to sit behind a little bit longer, but he certainly is looking like he's got some reasonable pace at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. The question is, will he be able to get past Damien Westbrook? Westbrook is a very aggressive racer, as we've seen in the rounds this season, and he'll defend that position for all it's worth. But the battling continuing throughout the field, particularly between Dillon and Baldwin. Brady just getting sideways on the entry into the hairpin. Dillon, with the wider line, gets the power down a bit earlier and can try and force his way past Baldwin here. Looks like he's gotten it done there on the exit as Brenton Hobson crosses the line to win the first race here. That just flew by. Justin Howe in second. Favell comes home to finish third, and McLeod with the drive of the race taking up 10 positions there, 14th to 4th. Jones managing to not quite get Westbrook at the end.
It's not quite close enough to get a move done in at the end, so he's going to have to settle for where he's ended up in race 1 at least, but going to be starting in a reasonable position for race 2, so not all is lost there.
Certainly not. Those are the results then. By 4/10, Brenton Hobson takes it, and what you're seeing here is how they're going to line up for the second race of the night. We add 2 laps to the lap count, so it's going to be a slight bit longer, but there's a bit of extra time for drivers to make up positions if they end up losing them on the first lap. So I think big losers out of that one, certainly Jaden Russell, getting taken out on the first lap by Damien Westbrook. He's going to be extremely unhappy with that and will want to try and work his way forward very quick sharp. The revs are starting to rise, but we'll probably expect them in about 10 seconds, Cam.
Yes, we'll expect them very, very shortly on the grid, hopefully, but we'll have to see what's going to happen as timer is at 0, the lights are on, and we are about to get underway, and that's a jump start from Justin Howe.
Oh no, that's going to be a penalty for Howie. So Hobson gets off to a good start there. Favell as well on the outside coming into turn 1. Howe kicks out the rear as he tries defending there from Favell, but he's starting to get backed into the pack. Mitchell McLeod there ready to pounce from 4th on the grid, gets up the inside of Justin Howe. Ryan Jones has to slot in behind Damien Westbrook. Brian Trezise gets off into the gravel. There's a slight bit of contact between himself and Baldwin, but this is quite the crush of cars in the middle of the field. Favell on the inside, Howe trying to hold it around the outside there as Westbrook and Jones once again make a bit of contact through turn 4. So that was a very poor start there for Justin Howe. To compromise himself a bit after he jumped it initially. Damien Westbrook switching to the outside to try and get past Ryan Jones again as Aaron Dillon massively overshoots, locks up the brakes and gets off the circuit, but manages somehow to maintain a semblance of a position as, goodness me, that's Brian Trezise up and over. He manages to keep it on all 4 wheels though. Oh my goodness, this racing is very close as Aaron Dillon heading up a massive battle pack here. Westbrook, then Baldwin, then Stevens, then Lumsden. Oh my goodness, 3 wide, and Brady Baldwin giving a full-on serve to Damien Westbrook. Aaron Dillon getting shuffled back there. He gets onto the grass on the inside of the corner, and Daniel Stevens gets the advantage on the exit.
Yeah, certainly does, and Brady Baldwin moves ahead of Aaron Dillon as well, and very, very busy in this little pack just inside the top 10, so it's all for keeps here. So Aaron Dillon's going to try and make a move on it. Brady Baldwin down at the front straight, single file at the front of the field, but see who's going to come out on top in this little battle here. Dylan breaks later than Baldwin does, and Russell's going to send it up the inside of Lumsden as well.
Yes, indeed. There goes Brady Baldwin around the outside of Aaron Dillon. And they've got from very close company Jaden Russell, Max Lumsden, and Philip Howe. Ricardo Morganti and Robert Corey going side by side at the back of the field as well. It seems no matter where you are in this field, you have someone to race with. It's Brady Baldwin. The inside of Aaron Dillon does not quite get the exit he wants. Dillon keeping all four wheels on the tarmac and getting a good run down the back straight as it's getting to single file running up the front. So Dillon braking on the racing line. He's going to hold the outside, give Baldwin a bit of room. Brady, unfortunately, half spinning himself around. Dillon stays wide and ends up taking the position. Russell gets his nose in. The two SM Sim Sport cars, though, are providing the sandwich for which Russell is the meat.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly you can't discount what Russell's going to do possibly in the next lap or so, as he's going to want to try and get a little bit of a move. I'm going to try around the outside at the back end of the circuit, but that's going to allow Lumsden to try and send a move in there as well. And Philip Howe getting involved too as well, and Howe's going to move on by Lumsden with a little bit of hip and shoulder as well.
I'm beginning to think that Justin Howe has not gotten much of a penalty, if any, from that jump start. We haven't seen him pull into the pits, and he's continuing to pressure Mitchell McLeod for second place here. It might be a time penalty at the very end of the race, so we might see him fall down the order on the results sheet. As the battling continues between Aaron Dillon and Brady Baldwin, Brady just firing it towards the inside of the corner and just gets ahead of Aaron Dillon there. The exit is pretty even between them, but Baldwin with just enough of an advantage to slip on ahead. Dillon, I think, is going to try up the inside here. He certainly has a look. Jaden Russell is right there with them too.
And Russell trying to set the exit up nicely, which he's done very, very well, and is going to have a run on Aaron Dillon down at the back straight. But Dillon's going to have a little bit of a draft, and Dillon decides to go slightly defensive as well. So Russell's going to be boxed in here by Baldwin, and also Dillon is going to try and hold it around the outside, but not quite going to be able to do it. And Dillon's sending it up the inside of Baldwin as well, but Baldwin's going to have the inside for the following corner. And don't forget about Philip Howe just in the background there as he's getting involved in this, and Brady running slightly wide onto the dirt, but managing to gather it back up nicely.
Yeah, maintaining speed as well. But Aaron Dillon is going to have another look here into the hairpin. He has a look up the inside. Oh, Baldwin got a wheel into the grass, sent himself wide. Dillon has to nail the throttle here. He can't give any advantage to Brady, but he has through the right-hander. Try and get on the throttle as best you can. You don't want to go side by side through this last corner here. As coming into the pits there is Justin Howe, and I think that will be to serve a stop and go penalty for jumping the start. That's a big shame for Justin. He was making life very difficult for Mitchell McLeod out the front, but now Mitch is free to chase down Brenton Hobson in the lead. But the racing in the midfield is just fantastic as Philip Howe comes a cropper in the braking zone, smashes into the wall and upside down now with only half a truck left. So we'll get a quick virtual racing school replay of that as the battle between Baldwin and Dillon continues. So what here happened to Howe?
Very, very odd looking at it myself just before. I'm not entirely sure what actually happened. It looked like he sort of just broke a little bit too late and locked the rears as a result. We'll see what's going to happen here. Just got a little bit loose on the braking zone. Lucky not to actually take Jaden Russell with him, and then up and over. Unfortunately, he goes and he's going to have to take it back to the main.
That's a shame there for both Howes. They have had a lot of trouble in this second race of the night as Dillon and Baldwin just cannot leave each other alone here. Brady getting onto the throttle and moving ahead of Aaron Dillon again. Coming into the turn after the hairpin. Seems that that's where he's starting to gain a bit of an advantage. But Dillon is ready to pounce at every single braking zone here. Meanwhile, up at the front, Brenton Hobson has held on magnificently to the race lead. Mitchell McLeod has just not been able to catch up to him.
doesn't quite seem to have enough to catch up to Brenton Hobson, who seems to be checking out very much so at the front of the field. So this is going to be no doubt that Hobbo is going to have this one in the bag with the gap that McLeod has at the moment. But for the back again, that battle's still raging on between Baldwin, Dylan, and also Russell as well. And Dylan's going to look to the inside on the way into turn one. Well, we're going to try and hold it around the outside and keeps that position in his hands. But Russell's still looking very, very racy at the moment.
Yeah, indeed he is. He's going to try and involve himself massively in this battle between Dylan and Baldwin. And this is really the closest battle on the racetrack at the moment. The drivers behind of Max Lumsden and Robert Corey are not able to make a dent in this fight. But Lumsden is trying his best, just sending it into every braking zone. Baldwin getting a magnificent exit out of turn 4. And it looks like Jaden Russell might have a run at Aaron Dillon down the straight. It's not the longest of straights here at Okayama, but you get just enough of a draft to get a whisper of a move, which is attempted there by Jaden Russell. But Aaron Dillon is very familiar with the outside line at that hairpin, and he puts the power down nicely, takes the position right back.
He does, so not going to be position gained there in the end, but it's still going to come right down to the wire based on the way it's been going. Back at the front, though, or towards the front at least, Ryan Jones starting to apply a bit of pressure to the back of Gregory Favell in the last lap or so. Slightly quicker was Ryan Jones, not too dissimilar in lap times, but he's got a little bit of an advantage and a little bit sideways off the final corner as well. Won't particularly help, but still you have to keep on this little battle and see what's going to happen. But Jones can keep this sort of pace up. He might just be able to get a move done and move on to the podium.
Perhaps, but he's only got 2 laps in which to do it. Gregory Favell has shown himself to be quite the competitor here at Okayama tonight. Jones, I think, just losing slightly in the last couple of corners. Didn't quite maximise the exit curb on the final turn. Got to give him a little bit more momentum on the start-finish straight. Back to the battle between Dylan and Baldwin. Brady getting a little bit crossed up on the exit of turn 2, and Dylan has a run again, but thanks to the run through the Moss S, it doesn't look like he has much room with which to move alongside Baldwin until the approach to the corner. But Baldwin looks like he's overcooked it coming into turn 4, and Dylan moves up the inside. And this is, I think, a bit rare for Aaron Dillon. He hasn't seen the inside line for the hairpin in quite some time. He can't afford to get behind Baldwin like that, because Baldwin would just move across and go defensive. The door is left open, though. Baldwin holds the outside nicely. Aaron Dillon, of course, having to turn a bit tighter to make the corner. He's going to push it side by side through the left-hander. Jaden Russell smells blood here just behind, as Baldwin puts the power down at the apex and moves back ahead. Here we go. Aaron Dillon making contact there as he moved across on Jaden Russell. Baldwin sideways again in the hairpin. The door is swung open there for Aaron Dillon, but Baldwin holding on again through the right-hand hairpin. And these guys, I'm amazed that they can even keep going at this rate. If it were me, I would have completely tapped out at this point. Dillon going defensive versus Jaden Russell in the final corner. A little bit of oversteer might just give Jaden Russell a move as we're on the white flag lap at the moment.
Yeah, it's going to be one more lap for these guys to get their moves done. And Dillon getting very crossed up on the brakes on the way into turn 1. And that's going to allow Russell to slip on by and now be on the move to try and see if he can find his way on it by Brady Baldwin and move it into 7th place. He's just been silently sitting behind these two the entire race pretty much. Now this opportunity has arisen to try and get both of them. He's going to look to the inside at turn 4, but Baldwin going to hold it around the outside, nearly a little bit of contact, and Dillon going to force 3 wide up the inside as well. And just going to come out of that one in one piece, but Baldwin's going to hold it around the outside and have momentum on his side. He's going to go slightly defensive, but Dillon still looking in the background, and Baldwin going to hold the outside on the way into the hairpin. Russell tries the inside but plunging it in, but just can't quite seem to do it, and Baldwin's going to have the inside for the next corner, and he's going to get a little bit of assistance as well from Aaron Dillon, who's going to get up the inside of Jane Russell as well and get that position off him.
Well, so shuffled back again is Jaden Russell and could potentially get passed by Robert Corey, but Brenton Hobson up the front of the field, completely unharmed. It looks like Corey and Russell have made contact and Corey's moved past, but it is checkered flag for the 88. Oh, the battling continues as Corey got shuffled massively out of the way by Jaden Russell. Mitch McLeod and Gregory Favell are going to complete the podium here. Jones 4th, Stevens 5th. Damien Westbrook finishing in 6th place. But oh my goodness, that finish between Daniel Stevens and Damien Westbrook, I think that is certainly worth a replay. They had contact across the line.
Yeah, they actually did. It was very, very close between the two of them, and just not quite actually sure what happened there, whether Stevens just got a little bit too loose and as a result got hit on the across the line. But yeah, that was just very, very odd, but luckily Stevens holding on to the position.
Try and block Westbrook there. Might have run out of fuel, I'm not sure. Either way, seemed to slow up massively on the run up to the line, and Westbrook, of course, making contact, but Stevens finishing ahead of him ultimately, completing the top 10. Brady Baldwin, car 7, finishing 7th. Aaron Dillon, Jaden Russell, and Robert Corey rounding out the top 10. Max Lumsden finishing in 11th place. Brian Traziz unfortunately slipped backwards, started 8th, finished 12th. Ricardo Morganti finishes in 13th place. But Philip Howe looked like he manages to get it back out on track. He still has yet to come across the line on his final lap. But Justin Howe retiring after jumping the start.
Yeah, so a lot of work to do in race 3. Well, Justin Howe having to come all the way from the back of the field. So he's going to need to try and pass as many cars as he can as early as he can and try not to get caught up in the battling that may or may not happen in that mid-pack.
Well, there was Philip Howe crossing the line, the last finishing car in this race. We're going to step aside for a brief moment here at SimSpeed TV, 5-minute warm-up, and then we'll be back for the 9-lap final race. It's the expression session for the drivers. You're watching the Pro Truck Showdown, round 5 from Okayama.
Yeah, so we're using the VRS Direct Force Pro this year. We have a wheel adapter right here, so I'm using the rim I used last year. But the motor right here produces a lot of power, a lot of precision, and it helps me, just feel the car more, feel the car a lot quicker. Especially, this week we're at Sonoma. I can feel it, when it hits the curbs. Any little change in the car, the wheel reacts a lot quicker than your typical gear-driven or belt-driven wheel. For example, if you're on oval and the rear tires break loose, force feedback on it corrects a lot quicker than your typical wheels. There's no resistance pretty much as far as being able to make quick corrections on the wheel. So all that, paired with how precise the wheel itself is, it makes it to where it helps you as a driver, to find that extra hundredth or thousandths of a second. So when you're getting a direct drive wheel, especially the VRS wheel, it's heavy duty. It's got good weight to it, it's not a plastic toy. It feels like you can really beat up on it. A lot of people have issues with their plastic gear-driven wheels just kind of breaking after a couple years. This thing just feels like it can go forever. The forces are really strong where if you might have to let go of the wheel if you get into the wall. You can adjust all that with the settings on it and stuff, but the wheel itself doesn't play around. It's got way more strength than you could ever need, and that's what makes it good, that you can adjust that down to whatever the car needs. So initially you'll be able to get the controller box and the motor together, and eventually you will be able to add a rim onto that option. They'll also be including a button plate on it to put on the rim to have all sorts of different buttons and functionality. Also, pedals are coming, so that's a pretty big deal as well. Hasn't been covered too much, but the goal is to also have pedals to go along with the Direct Force Pro. So that's pretty exciting. The wheel feels good. It feels very much like a real world steering wheel. You just kind of feel like what you would imagine the car to feel like. A real steering wheel in a car is very smooth, it's very direct, very quick, and that's what this wheel feels like.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's going around the outside. Both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top now.
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness! Half the field's gonna get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go.
Oh no!
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
You're watching the Pro Truck Showdown, presented by Scumander Coffee Mug and Hot Toddy's Heating Installs. The expression session is on, and many tyre tracks and puffs of smoke are being made known around the racetrack here, as there's a very nice drift session going on between Brenton Hobson, Justin Howe, and Aaron Dillon. Love how drifty these trucks can be. Certainly not the fastest way around the circuit, but certainly looks great here. Gives us a little something to look at as, goodness me, Howe and Hobbo coming together. If you're just joining us, I'm Reese Gardner. Cameron Dance is alongside me in the commentary box. And Cam, we've seen two very good races here so far. The racing in the mid-pack has been super intense, but Brenton Hobson has stood head and shoulders above everyone else in terms of pace tonight.
Yeah, he certainly has. He's had some very, very quick pace, has Brenton Hobson, across the entire night, and has dominated both races so far by quite a reasonable margin as well. So we'll have to see what's going to happen in race 3 and whether he's going to be able to repeat his dominance out of the first 2 races, and whether he's going to be able to get clean sweep, or whether the likes of Mitchell McLeod are going to be able to finally step up to the plate and give him a bit of a run for his money.
Indeed. See Brenton Hobson's wheel work here in the cockpit view. These trucks have a very tight steering ratio. They are designed for racing on off-road courses, so you can really get them sideways around a place like Okayama, where everyone disappears. It is time for the session to move forward and go into the 9-lap final race of the night. And on pole position, it is going to be Brenton Hobson. He's won both races on the trot tonight. Let's see if he can make it a three-peat. Mitchell McLeod from second. Let's see if he can challenge Hobbo. Started 14th in race 1, finished 4th in, and then second in race 2. Favell and Jones on row 2. Stevens and Westbrook completing the top 6. 7th and 8th is going to be Brady Baldwin and Aaron Dillon. Jaden Russell in 9th. Robert Corey rounds out the top 10. Max Lumsden, Brian Trezise, Ricardo Morganti, and the father-son duo Philip Howe and Justin Howe rounding out the field. Let's see how far up Justin Howe can work himself. The timer is down. The revs rise. The lights go up. And we are racing at Okayama for the final time here. And it's a great start from Mitchell McLeod. He's got a bit of a run on Brenton Hobson here. Hobbo didn't quite get the traction down off the line. Mitchell is really pushing Hobbo towards the outside. Just moves ahead. There's still a little bit of overlap between the two of them though as Hobbo goes up the inside into turn 2. Ryan Jones trying to go around the outside of Daniel Stevens at turn 2. Trying to desperately to finish on the podium after threatening Gregory Favell in race 2. Hobbo, unfortunately, on the outside, coming into turn 4. Mitchell McLeod puts the power down and jets away into the lead of the race. The only other driver to hold on to the lead tonight other than Justin Howe in race 1. But Hobbo's coming right back at him as just behind them you see Favell, Stevens and Jones all fighting hard in the braking zone. Stevens going super deep. Damien Westbrook getting up the inside of Brady Baldwin just behind. And it looks like he's just managed to get through on the exit. Brenton Hobson going for it on Mitchell McLeod and back through into the lead as Stevens takes third from Favell.
Yeah, certainly in a very, very good move by Stevens to move into third. Ryan Jones coming under attack from Westbrook just in behind as Westbrook gets very out of shape. And Baldwin going to send it up the inside as well. So Westbrook going to lose 2 positions out of that, and a little bit of check-up going on behind. Dillon is around.
Oh no, Aaron Dillon, unfortunately, coming a cropper. He's managed to keep it going through the last couple of turns, but that's a position loss for him. Mitchell McLeod, meanwhile, has made his way back into the lead up at the front of the field. And Brenton Hobson can do little else but follow as we check out the Virtual Racing School replay of what happened here to Philip Howe. He's making his way through these turns here and ending up pulling over. Oh no, Riccardo Morganti. That's the car that was lost in the pits there. It looks like it was contact with Philip Howe. Let's see what happened here down at the hairpin. While Morganti moved across there on Howe, they both got on the brakes, and Morganti just went straight into the wall, actually got stuck in it.
Certainly not an ideal finish to the night from Morganti, and I don't think really Philip Howe could have done anything different there. So they will have hoped to have started the race, but it's on at the front of the field as Hobson looks to the inside of Mitchell McLeod at turn 5, sends it in very deep. McLeod gets checked up, Stevens gets checked up as well, and Hobbo is going to move straight into the lead of this race, and now everybody behind Stevens in that is now right on the tail of everybody.
Let's see if Brenton Hobson can nail his driving over the next lap and try and gap Mitchell McLeod, because he was able to hold on to a very big gap in race 2. Can he repeat that in race 3? Stevens is up to 3rd with Gregory Favell slotting back in behind and facing a lot of pressure from Ryan Jones there in the number 11, the bright blue machine. Brady Baldwin starting to make himself known to this pack as well. They're going to have to depend on the draft down the front and back straights here, just trying to keep themselves in contention, because if McLeod and Hobson start battling again, these guys are going to be right in it. But Favell isn't thinking about that right now. He's thinking about a move on Stevens, almost pushing him there into the braking zone. And Jones continuing to observe these happenings from behind, but Brady Baldwin's starting to creep up here.
Certainly creep up and starting to show he's got a little bit of pace going on here, and that he could be a little bit of a threat later on in this race. So to keep an eye on him and see what he's going to be able to do, and whether he might even be able to make up a few positions. But Stevens is under threat from Favell, who's managing to slip up the inside at turn 4, but just can't quite get the exit enough and get the run. But he's going to tuck right up in behind in the draft, and he's going to look to the outside on the way into the hairpin, and McLeod looking up the inside of Hobson as well at the hairpin, and those two are going to be looking like Hobson's going to come out on top and Stevens going to come out on top as well.
Righto, so unsuccessful move for Mitchell McLeod, but a successful defence for Daniel Stevens, and Ryan Jones again right in the midst of that battle in 5th place. But the top two you can see starting to gap the rest of the field. They certainly will be hoping that there's a bit more biff and barge between Brenton Hobson and Mitchell McLeod, but they know better than that. They are very clean with each other, Hobson and McLeod. Stevens still just holding on to 3rd here, and we're going to come up to a 3rd race distance at the end of this lap, sideways for Gregory Favell into the final turn, and that's compromised him slightly on the exit. Both he and Stevens dipping wheels into the gravel. So Ryan Jones gets an ever so slight run, moves to the inside, but there's technical issues for Favell. Looked like Jones just backing out of that maneuver. No sense in going for a banzai move if you're not even sure where the truck next to you is going to be. He holds the outside, gets a more direct line through turn 2. Can't quite take advantage on the exit. Daniel Stevens is turning into a bit of a cork in the bottle here, as Brady Baldwin is going to gain a bit of an advantage from this. Favell trying up the inside of Stevens like he did on the last lap, but not able to get alongside this time, and he's compromised again on the exit. Jones could get the draft.
Definitely could get the draft. Pulls out to the inside, does Jones, so he's going to try and get a move done at the hairpin as Jones doesn't quite break as late as Favell, but Favell's going to end up going up and over after contact.
No, Ryan Jones just locked his brakes slightly. Oh no, it was Favell that locked up a little bit going into the chicane, into the hairpin, sorry. Jones just moving up to the inside, and it was ever so slight contact, but they did lock wheels a little bit, I think, which sent Favell up and over. So he is now all the way down in 11th, and not going to be too happy with that.
Yeah, certainly not going to be too happy as Favell as a result of what's happened there, but nevertheless, Ryan Jones is going to have gained a place out of it and is going to be on the hunt for Daniel Stevens. Is Jaden Russell having a little bit of a moment?
Yeah, like he cut the pit entry there. Doesn't look like that was intentional. He just went straight for it and tried to get a little bit of an advantage there over Aaron Dillon, but you've got to be careful when you're doing that. The game can very easily penalise you. Damien Westbrook getting very feisty just behind Brady Baldwin. This is the battle for 5th place now, with Gregory Favell out of the picture. It means that Ryan Jones and Daniel Stevens can battle on their lonesome. We know how aggressive Westbrook is under brakes and how hard he drives that number 73 truck. Brady Baldwin, though, just holding on to a bit more than a truck length gap.
Happening this time by for Westbrook at the hairpin, but he might just be able to get it done at some stage, at least. It won't be too far off, getting him moved very deep in the brake zone of the hairpin, and has closed that gap up quite nicely. So he's pushing very hard as Westbrook to try and close that gap down as Russell's up the inside of Justin Howe, and Howe's trying to drive it around the outside of Russell, and nearly contact between the two of them. Howe's going to try and hold it around the outside. He's going to be on the outside for the hairpin and two wheels in the dirt in the process as well, trying to pull it up. Barely going to manage to pull the thing up, and Russell is going to hold on to that position again.
Aaron Dillon got crossed up in front of them coming into the hairpin as well. So now that is a proper three-way battle between these guys for 7th. Russell again just cutting the inside a little bit, not as egregiously as he did on the last lap, but still that may be an off track for him. So it could be a draft down the front straight here for Jaden Russell as they come round to start lap 6. They have a third of race distance to go, as that is very deep for Russell. Mikey have overshot turn 1. Maybe enough there to let Justin Howe get up the inside of both of them at once. That was a great move there from Howie, holding on to the outside through turn 2 again, which is going to give him the inside for turn 3. Aaron Dillon can just sit and watch as these two go side by side into the braking zone. They bang wheels together, rear quarter panels is all coming together, Dillon and Russell. That allows Justin Howe to get away. Russell now has more dents on his truck than an old colander. Goodness me.
He has certainly got a few whacks here and there from Aaron Dillon there, and Robert Corey going to get involved in this little battle as well. He's going to be on the outside and try and get around the outside of Aaron Dillon. He's going to get that one done very, very easily. Russell goes a little bit deep on the brakes, but barely pulls it up, but gets very, very crossed up on the exit, trying to get the power down, and Corey trying to get around the outside, but that's going to allow Dillon back up the inside and getting it, well, trying to get the move done there. And Corey continuing to hold the outside and getting very loose on the exit as well. And Dillon going to be on the inside and will get that move back done this time by, and Favell's going to slot up the inside nearly as well.
Yeah, so now Favell making himself known to the rest of the field again. Dillon's run wide in the right-hand hairpin, and he is level with Robert Corey coming out of the hairpin, but Corey moves on ahead, and it looks like Gregory Favell might just get him as well. Jaden Russell all alone now and forced to chase down Justin Howe for 7th place as Westbrook and Baldwin almost coming together. These two as well, Stevens and Jones. They were fighting so hard in race 1. It was a fantastic fight between the two of them, and it looks like it's repeating here. So over the next 2.5 laps, what can Ryan Jones do to try and snatch a podium away here tonight?
Going a little bit too deep on the brakes like that is probably not going to help, especially when he's trying to get the run on Daniel Stevens to get a move done. But we'll see what's going to happen at the hairpin here with the fact that he's going to be tucked up in behind in the draft. He's going to look to the outside of Daniel Stevens, who goes to the inside. He's not going to be able to break ever so slightly later, but he's going to be very equal with him on the braking zone, and Stevens going to just hold on to that one. On the end is Jones getting very loose on the exit.
As just behind Damien Westbrook, managing to get by Brady Baldwin at the hairpin with a textbook outbraking manoeuvre. Baldwin is trying to tap a little bit of Morse code on Mr. Westbrook, but goodness me, Jones and Stevens trading positions here. Jones now with the outside at the hairpin. This is fantastic racing between these two. Looked like Stevens went defensive into the right-hander, into the left-hander, sorry, and just overcooked it a little, which allowed Jones a chance at getting up the inside. But they're going to continue for another lap with Jones back into fourth. Neither of these drivers have a podium tonight, and with Gregory Favell running down the order still, he's only up to ninth now. This would certainly be a great opportunity for either of these drivers to get some well-deserved championship points. In terms of the championship, Brenton Hobson was leading into this round by 13 points over Justin Howe. Daniel Stevens currently third in the championship with 678 points without drop rounds. And there is going to be a drop round this season, thanks to the week's break that the series took. So either way, this could really change the championship picture for Ryan Jones, with Gregory Favell down the order as much as he is. Favell in fourth, Jones in fifth in the standings. Around the outside, Jones goes. A slight lock up with the brakes around the outside. He has to slow himself up in the middle of the corner and allow Stevens back ahead.
Yeah, we might have just been able to get that move done, but couldn't quite in the end. Had a little knock up the inside at the two corners later, but just not quite close enough to get a move done. He's looking very racy though, and looking like he's very much wanting to get a move on to try and find a way on by Stevens, but just can't quite seem to do it at the moment.
Yes, indeed. I thought for a second that I had seen a truck stop by the side of the track, but it turns out it was just one of the Marshall trucks by the side of the track. Part of the scenery in iRacing. Our director saying that that's caught him out all night, and well, now it's caught me out too. And we'll Steven. P3. Oh, me 3. Ryan Jones there, jumping in for a comment as well. When you're driving a vehicle like this, it can be very easy to mistake those utility vehicles by the side of the track for someone stricken. Well, we took a look just up the front there, and I mean, there's really not much to say. Brenton Hobson has absolutely streaked away from Mitchell McLeod and holding on to a magnificent lead as Justin Howe now is trying on Brady Baldwin for 6th place, right on the bumper of the Oceanic Dirt Sim Events race director. And Baldwin getting massively oversteery through the exit of turn 4. Howe adds a check up, give him a bump on the exit. And to the inside for the run up to the hairpin. Let's see if there's a change for position here. But Baldwin has been racing these trucks long enough to know that you can hold the outside at the hairpin. Unfortunately, not able to get it done that time around with a big lock-up in the braking zone.
It's not quite able to get it done, and Ryan Jones not able to get it done on Daniel Stevens at the hairpin either. Drove it in a little bit too deep and just couldn't quite get the power down that he needed to in the end, and Stevens is going to hold on to that one. He don't think he's going to be able to get a move done this time around through these final few corners, but might just be able to settle for a 4th place finish. But how about this man dominating both races so far and also taking pole as well in qualifying, and he's going to make it 3 from 3 and take a clean sweep from this round.
Yes, indeed. Brenton Hobson crossing the line in jubilance sideways. Mitchell McLeod is going to do the same in 2nd. Of course, losing some time to Daniel Stevens, who takes a brilliant 3rd place after that fantastic battle with Ryan Jones. Damien Westbrook is going to come home in 5th place, and Justin Howe beating out Brady Baldwin for 6th. Goodness me, some close finishes at the Other end of the field as well with Dylan, Trezise, and Corey. Oh my god. And Jay was so quick on that replay queue up. Goodness me. What on earth happened there? Robert Corey coming across the line as Dylan and Trezise came together, sailing up into the air. You want airtime? Well, that is what you certainly get. But either way, what a performance from Brenton Hobson to take 3 victories from 3 races tonight and extend his championship lead over Justin Howe. Mitch McLeod coming home in second in that final race with Daniel Stevens in third. Jones and Westbrook complete the top 5. Howe, well, he didn't have the best of nights. He got a second place finish in race 1, but a penalty in race 2, plus some difficulties moving his way forward in race 3 means he doesn't quite get the optimum amount of points. Baldwin with some solid results meanwhile, as well as Jaden Russell. Gregory Favell, well, he was in contention for third, but has to settle for 9th at the end after contact with Ryan Jones, and Aaron Dillon rounds out the top 10. Trezise, Corey, Lumsden, and Morganti, your last finishers with Philip Howe 9 laps down. Morganti was able to get back out there, but Philip Howe pulling over after that contact with Morganti on the back straight. Oh, my goodness. What a fantastic round once again of the Pro Truck Showdown. Cam, it seems that Brenton Hobson has a very tight grip on this championship lead.
Yeah, he certainly does, and he's built on it once again at this round, so he's got no show of slowing down at this stage from what we can gather, but who knows what's going to happen at the next few rounds.
Indeed. We are only going to have 1 round of the championship to go, and we're not quite sure where it's going to be. As per usual, it is a secret to the drivers up until the day before the servers go live, so we will be as surprised as you are when the track for the final round is revealed. Will Brenton Hobson be able to hold on here for his first Pro Truck Showdown title? Or will Justin Howe be able to have an absolutely perfect round while Hobson falls and be able to take the crown? Looks like it's Hobbo's to lose at the moment, but we will find out for sure next week. Thanks very much to Scumander Coffee Mug and Hot Toddy's Heating Installs for your support of this series. I'm Reese Gardner. Cameron Dance alongside me, Jay Kennedy directing, and Ryan Jones just popping in for a peep or two. You're watching SimSpeed TV, Pro Truck Showdown. Bring it on, final round.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got rid of the outside. Both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top. Oh my god. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
6 very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my god.
God, what?